Welcome to Time Well Spent, a podcast from LaborSync, the only real-time, multilingual timesheet software your business will ever need.
There's this really common myth in the business world that as your company grows, things just naturally have to get more complicated. Like, we assume that scaling means you need massive manuals, extra layers of management, and, well, just more stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. We tend to mistake complexity for, sophistication. But in reality, true scale actually requires the exact opposite.
Right, exactly. So for today's deep dive, we're unpacking a really insightful LaborSync blog article. And we want to figure out why complexity is actually the biggest bottleneck to growth. And we'll look at how this principle of simple scales can completely change how you run your business. So let's just get right into it.
Well, if you look at a typical growth trajectory, this complexity trap usually sneaks up on you. I mean, when a company is really small, you can handle the decision fatigue just fine. But as you add headcount, you inevitably hit these communication breakdowns. And then the knee-jerk reaction to that pain is to just add like more layers, right? Like, oh, communication is a problem. Let's adopt another messaging app. Payroll is a mess. Let's draft a 20-page compliance manual.
Exactly, which just creates more drag.
Yeah, and the blog article uses this perfect analogy for this. It says running a business that way is like trying to build a skyscraper on a foundation of Jell-O. You just end up with this really fragile Frankenstein system. But I gotta push back for a second here.
Sure. What's on your mind?
Well, don't the really massive, super successful multinational franchises rely on all these incredibly intricate corporate systems to function?
You would think so, right? But what's fascinating is that the actual operational floor of those franchises is stripped down to the absolute bare minimum. So take the ultimate example, McDonald's. A teenager anywhere in the world on their very first day knows exactly how to make their fries.
Ah, right. It's that, like, fry cook level of simplicity.
Precisely. They have engineered out the friction. Because when processes are simple, they become universally understood and, highly repeatable. And repeatability is what breeds predictability.
That makes total sense. If a new hire needs, I don't know, 3 weeks just to navigate your legacy systems to log their hours, you aren't really scaling. You're just accumulating overhead. So how do we actually clear out that operational drag?
So the LaborSync blog article gives us a really solid three-step framework for hitting that fry cook level of predictability. And the very first step is to standardize the basics. You just pick one single way to do things across the board.
Right, because if one crew leader tracks time over text messages and another uses a spreadsheet and someone else just sends an email.
You don't have a system at that point. You just have guaranteed data silos. So you standardize first. Then step two is you have to kill the exceptions. You stop making special rules.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here. Isn't accommodating a special one-off client requests, like saying, oh, we bill things differently for Bob on Tuesdays? Isn't that how smaller businesses compete? If I kill exceptions, aren't I killing my customer service?
It totally feels that way. But honestly, exceptions are the cracks where your profit leaks out.
Yeah.
Think about the cognitive load you're adding to your team. Every special rule forces a manager to manually override the system.
Which just acts as a huge cognitive speed bump.
Exactly. And it practically guarantees a future payroll error.
Yeah.
Clear boundaries actually improve your service because they keep your team focused and fast.
Okay, I see what you mean. So once you standardize and kill those exceptions, I feel like the instinct is to jump to step 3 and just buy software to automate whatever is left. But the article warns against this.
Yeah, a big warning.
Yeah.
Because software does not fix chaos. It exposes it.
I love that line. Can you explain why that happens?
Well, software is really just an accelerator. If your current manual process is broken and confusing, introducing an app just lets your team execute that broken process at light speed. You create a much bigger disaster, much faster. You have to simplify before you digitize.
Let's ground this in reality for a second. Think about a universally painful operational drag, like payroll. How do we apply this framework there without making it too complicated?
Time tracking is the ultimate test of doing less.
Yeah.
Think about a field crew. They're out dealing with the weather, difficult clients, they're exhausted.
Yeah, the absolute last thing they need at the end of a 10-hour shift is to, navigate some bloated enterprise HR suite or remember a bunch of login codes.
Right, so the complex fix would be hiring a full-time payroll chaser to wrangle all that mismatched data. But
Right.
the simple solution, you strip it down, you give them an app with the green start button and a red stop button.
I mean, that really does turn a 10-hour payroll nightmare into a 10-minute task. But keeping it that way is the real battle, right? Because complexity creep is always just waiting in the wings.
Oh, it is. It's like weeds in a garden. So before you introduce a new step or a new tool, ask one critical question. Will this make the job easier for the person actually doing the work? If the answer is no, kill the idea.
Because simple systems turn your business into an asset you manage rather than a cage you're trapped in. So here's a challenge to leave you with as you audit your own operations this week. Where is that messy knot in your business that you're only maintaining because, well, that's how we've always done it? Find it and cut the cord.
Yeah, that's incredibly powerful advice to wrap up on.
This episode of Time Well Spent was brought to you by LaborSync. Track employee hours and job site locations in real time from any device. Start your risk-free trial today at laborsync.com.